Strive presents. Oh, got to get ready.
Laptop. Plant. That looks nice there.
Ooh, cookies, yum.
Notebook. Microphone, webcam, and coffee, of course.
A video podcast where deaf, hard of hearing, and disabled creatives and their allies chat about experiences, best practice, and the future of the arts. The Green Room.
Hello, welcome to The Green Room. What is The Green Room? It's part of the Strive Collective, which is a DH Ensemble and Hot Coals production coming together to create Strive Collective. And we're putting together a series of amazing interviews with deaf, disabled, hard of hearing, new diverse and industry allies. These interviews, we want you to get involved in the conversations, and you can do that by using the hashtag #TheGreenRoom_UK. The interviews go out every Thursday at 7:30. So I am Sophie Stone, and I'm part of the DH Ensemble. And today I'm wearing a blue striped shirt and big hooped earrings. I'm a white woman and I have brown long hair, and behind me, my background, I'm sat on a big dark comfy blue sofa and a plain cream wall. And I'm going to be signing today, and my voice will be by Anna Kitson. Good morning. Good morning. My name is Anna. My surname is, and you're basically pretending to roll up your sleeves from the wrist to the elbow, one arm at a time. I'm a white woman, around 5'7½", long brown hair, hazel eyes, and today I'm wearing a dark green shirt, and my background is a set of white wardrobes. Thanks, Anna. Also, we will be having, with Nickie Miles-Wildin in the room, we have Sophie Allen that will be interpreting for her today. Sophie.
Hello, my name is Sophie Allen. I am a 5'3" woman. I am wearing a dark blue jumper today. I've got pinkish purplish lipstick on, a sparkly nose ring, long reddish hair, and my background is a mint green wall with a dresser and a huge plant which isn't dead yet, which is something of an achievement for me.
Super, thanks Sophie. And finally, our guest today is the amazing, phenomenal Nickie Miles-Wildin.
Hello, I'm Nickie. My sign name is you take your index fingers, you place them in the middle of the cheeks on your face, and you smile and draw circles. Nickie. I'm a white woman. I have bleached white hair, which is short at the sides and a bit like a mop on the top, and you can really see my roots coming through. Badly in need of a haircut and a rebleach. I am wearing black glasses. I have my black and gold Adidas top on today. I'm sat in a black swivel chair. Behind me is a white bookcase full of books and books all about theatre that I haven't read. On top of the bookcase is a mishmash of photos, and to my one side I have my curtains that have got red flowers on and grey petals.
Oh, super. Thank you, Nickie. So today, really, we just want to have a little chat. Because, you know, as we are fully aware, the theatres are all closed at the moment, so there's no access to the green rooms that we all know and love. And it's we've got a real history together in terms of sort of partying, celebrating, chatting, developing things. But I'm not sure we've actually been in a real green room together before. But remind me, is that right? Where did we meet?
No, I don't think we have. We've always met at we've done auditions together, whether that was for BBC, whether for Graeae. We've done research and development together on projects, but we've never properly worked on a project. I think you've been in the green room at the Royal Exchange the same time I've been, but we've never been proper working together.
Yeah. Gosh, I just couldn't remember, because I think the Manchester green room, just, you've got all the little cafe and everything. I just remember just all gathering in there and having lovely, great big chats. The vibe in that green room was just always just so super. So anyway, well, we're talking about Manchester. Well, I think you're at Manchester. You're there as a head of new writing. Is that right?
No, I'm at Graeae as head of new writing, as associate director. I've worked at Manchester Royal Exchange. I was at the Royal Exchange from 2017 till 2019 on the RTYDS scheme as resident assistant director. So I was at the theatre. I was assistant director on a couple of main house shows. I got to work with the young company and direct them in work. And then from 2019 till summer of 2020, I was young company program leader. So I taught the young company, the actors, the theatre makers as well. So it was a great range of young people that I worked with.
Okay. I think actually no, I think I remember reading something about a new project that's opening, but we'll hold that for later. We won't talk about that now. But I want to say congratulations to you, because you're now artistic director and CEO of DaDa Fest, and that's along with Grace. So you'll be working together to create a new program for the next festival. And I think, I believe, you're taking over Ruth Gold, whose now surname is Fabi. Her surname's changed. So I just think I can imagine, you're really excited to get your teeth stuck into that. And I don't know, you've got exciting plans? What have you got planned?
Yeah, it is. It's going to be a massive role for me. I'm really, for me and Grace working together, we're really excited. I think we're both a little bit nervous, but I think we're at that point where we're reading so much about DaDa Fest at the moment, like all the different kind of strands of work that it does. So I think we're feeling at the point where, we really do just want to get stuck in. And it's going to be, it's a massive role picking up from the fantastic work that Ruth had done with DaDa Fest. And now thinking around where are we going to take DaDa Fest over, the next 5 to 8 years, where are we going to go with it? What's the future for it? And it's really exciting. We're excited to start working with all the artists that have been affiliated with DaDa Fest, start to bring in new people. I'm really keen to find that next generation of deaf and disabled artists, and help to really, I think, keep shifting that sort of cultural landscape that is around us, and also get to know Liverpool a lot more. I've been over, for various visits, and I go over there to go to the beach, and my partner's aunt and uncle live over in the Wirral. But, this is a chance to really go and explore the art scene in Liverpool and like
lovely.
the vibrancy of it and the city. So I'm really excited to get to know Liverpool a lot more, and really, I think, make the Northwest a kind of a real beacon for disability, deaf and disabled arts.
Yeah. So for people that don't know, maybe you could explain a little bit more in terms of DaDa Fest. What really is it? Tell us.
Well, that's the thing. It started off as a Northwest Disability Arts Forum many years ago. I think set up in like 1984. And then it became DaDa Fest International in 2001. This is where I'm testing myself on the history of DaDa Fest. So apologies if these dates are wrong.
We're listening. Come on, Nickie, come on.
Yeah, so yeah, it's a brilliant what DaDa Fest. It has an international festival, usually in November, kind of around the Disability History Month. We commission work from potentially all over the world as well, and it's a great platform for artists to have their work shown. And for us, we're going to be looking at what that festival model is. How can we build on that brilliant foundation where it is at the moment? What's the next sort of like step or wheel for us with regards to that festival? And also, how can our investment in artists feed into those festivals as well? So yeah, we're slowly. I mean, we don't officially start until March the 8th. And then it's only like sort of one day a week. I don't start properly until May. So the next couple of months are going to be us really like starting to get to grips with the organisation. And then, you know, the first 6 months is probably going to be trying to get to meet lots of people and doing the brilliant, you know, Arts Council business plans. So I feel the first couple of months is going to be very administrative. And then hopefully after that we can really start pulling the focus and but also that gives us chance, doesn't it, as a country to hopefully come out of this pandemic situation, and we'll kind of have more of an idea of where we are in the arts.
Absolutely.
And what is available.
Yeah. And I think it would be really nice to celebrate deaf and disabled and neurodiverse talent in person, you know, have a face-to-face celebration. I'm really hopeful that can happen as well.
Yeah, me too.
So we've touched on Graeae and your involvement. You've been involved with Graeae for a long time now. And you're also head of new writing there. So how, you know, you've been involved in Graeae for so many years and wearing so many hats, you know, as an actor and director. And so how does it feel to sort of have this new role on top of that as well?
It feels exciting, and I feel like they're both roles will sort of come together. I'll be able to feed artists through to DaDa Fest and artists from DaDa Fest into Graeae, and I think it is key around connecting up all those dots and making these platforms even more accessible. Yeah, and you know, my role at Graeae has been, like you say, has been really varied. Like, started off, I've kind of known of Graeae since university and writing about the company for my dissertation, and then also meeting Jenny when I had a show that went up to Edinburgh, and then starting a couple of years later, starting to become like working with Jamie Bedard, who was associate director at the time, working on Flower Girls. That was all as an actor, workshop facilitator. And then I started to move more into directing and assisting Jenny on shows such as like the Rhinestone Rollers, the outdoor wheelchair line dancing troupe that we had, to then assisting her on Blood Wedding, to then House of Bernarda Elba. And then, you know, it was great to then have
Nickie,
the role as a
sorry, what was
director.
Nickie, what was the performance after Blood Wedding?
Did you have Rhinestone Rollers? The outdoor,
and then what was the one after that?
And then House of Bernarda Elba.
Bernarda Elba?
Yeah.
ELBA?
ALBA. Elba. Yeah, sorry. And then House of Bernarda Elba.
It's like, is it Banana-rama or something? Oh, no. It's a joke, isn't it? We use that as some sort of joke between,
yeah, used to call it Banana-rama just for a bit of ease. But yeah. And on that, and then to have the role as associate director and head of new writing is like, it felt like a real combination of the skills I'd learned from my role at the Royal Exchange as well, to be able to bring those into Graeae, and work with writers and put sort of this deaf and disabled stories out there centre stage.
Gosh, yes. Wonderful. I mean, I love that. Just being a part of the seed, the sprinkling of those seeds and building and creating something new. It just, gosh, and it's really jumped to another question that I had that I wanted to ask you. When I was 16, I went to the National Student Drama Festival, and I think it was in Scarborough. Yeah, Scarborough. If I could just spell that, I don't know how to spell it, but Scarborough. And I was 16 on my own, and I just decided I wanted to go there and absorb and be a sponge while I was there. But everything that I took on board, it was just so amazing, so rich, and it was so welcoming. I felt really welcomed there, and I learned so much about how to value the tutors and what they do, and it actually gave me some confidence. And I remember, I think you are one of the few people that sort of wanted to take on that sort of teaching role and add that value, and show talent and make it visible, and to create accessible theatre much better and improve on that area, so that we could actually learn how to change and adapt processes, and improve that for deaf, disabled, neurodiverse and varied talent.
Yeah, and I think, and it's funny that you mentioned NSDF, because I'm and I never know the correct title, so I'm really sorry, NSDF, but I'm either whether I'm an ambassador or an associate, it's something like that. And through my role, I'm working with a lot of the students that are creating work for the festival, and thinking around how they can put access into that, how they can use access creatively in their work that they're going to be showcasing. And I became involved 2 years ago now with NSDF, where I was brought in as one of the judging panel. And it was in Leicester, because they've moved it now. The Curve in Leicester supports it, and so it was like a week in Leicester. But it was amazing, and like you say, Soph, that thing of you feel really immersed in. It's like a mini Edinburgh. Like, you go, you get your timetable. Yes. Go to this show, you have to go to that show, then there's a panel discussion, then there's a workshop, then there's like something going on in the evening, and it's really glorious, actually, to see all these young people really like hungry for theatre and for making work. And it was a joy to be one of the judges, where you had to go and see all of the shows. I got to lead workshops on creative access, and I've just continued that relationship, working closely with James Phillips, who's the artistic director there, and we're really thinking now how we can input creative access from the start for these students, and make the entire festival more accessible as well, because it was really apparent to me 2 years ago there was a real lack of, there was no students there that identified as deaf or disabled. So I was like, well, why is this? But then you look at it and you go, well, the shows aren't captioned, there's no sign interpretation, there's no audio description. The festival itself, like, do you have interpreters around? So I'm really working with the festival to look at how we're going to move that forward. So yeah, there's a couple of things we've got planned. So keep an eye on NSDF. There will be some announcements coming over the next couple of months with regards to that.
Yes, love it. That's great
Yeah.
to hear. Oh, I'm probably too old now, but I'm so grateful to have people like us, involved in making those announcements, sort of moving things forward, so we can continue to learning, because without the access, how do we grow? Without that learning, we need more quality sort of imparting of knowledge. We need people to continue to learn and to have those opportunities, otherwise things continue to be inaccessible. Oh,
Yeah,
thank you so much. Thank you so much for being
no,
here.
but I think part of that as well is that I remember as growing up in Gloucestershire, the lack of opportunities I had, and also the lack of deaf and disabled people on my TV, or when I could go to the theatre, like where was the representation of me? So I think it really comes, for me, it
Yeah.
comes from that place of we have to change that. We have to make that change for the next generation coming through. Like,
Yes.
Me being involved at NSDF, I'm like double the age of some of those students. So I feel really old. But it is just that thing of like, let's start and get theatre makers thinking around accessing their process. Let's get deaf and disabled students in there making work. And then that's the way we're going to, lead on to changing the industry, pushing the quality of the work as well that's out there. Yeah, and it's something that I feel really passionate about, that we have to do it. It's yeah,
for sure.
I'm not taking no for an answer.
I think is it for the RTYDS? Is it the national? No, regional? No, hang on. Regional Theatre Young Directors Scheme. Got it. I think it's very similar to just in trying to encourage more young directors from more diverse backgrounds, which means, whoever receives the story, whoever is creating those stories, it's more likely to be authentic. We've got directors that have that vision, or just sort of, rather than, oh, okay, these vulnerable people, oh, it's really sad, and oh gosh, don't put baby in the corner, that kind of narrative that we sort of see. And again, we want to kick that to the curb, and we want more fresh minds, young fresh minds with different perspectives and stories that come from a place of authenticity. And I think with you on board, sort of leading the way in that sort of light, and building a program for young directors, and well, not necessarily young, new directors, that we can that they can bring their vision and own their story. I think that's so important.
Yeah, and I think as well, and it's interesting what you say there around that sort of like the stories that we see, the vulnerable, the sick, that thing of, that's a very non-disabled perspective of our narrative. So, and this is key for me in my role at Graeae as well, is like going, well, let's get the true disabled narratives out there. And I don't mean that we all have to write around our impairments, whatever, but of course they're going to inform our work. They're going to inform the world we make. They're going to inform the people that we cast in those roles. So it's around allowing that authenticity, instead of having that non-disabled narrative that, oh, me as a person with a mobility impairment, my dream is to be an athlete or to run. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and then I have to have a non-disabled person to allow me to achieve my goal, and how wonderful it is, and I'm an inspiration, rah rah rah. And it's like, I don't want that, because that's not true to my life. And that and that narrative falls into that kind of the charity model, which is, I absolutely hate. So it is around providing that space for us as theatre makers and storytellers to come and tell, and have that space and make that space for us to tell our narratives, our stories, and to make them really bloody good.
Absolutely. Yes, exactly. And I think that, the scheme isn't specifically for deaf, disabled, neurodiverse artists. It's just it's a national thing that's become more inclusive. And for me, that feels that it's a real sort of leveling playing field, you know. So, and again, it just enables more opportunities to come about. So I think with you being there, I think more opportunities will be created, and the accessibility will be on par and keep on rising. So thank you for being a part of that. I want to rewind now to 2012, and I think maybe people will all now guess what I'm going to be talking about with your, I mean, the biggest platform possible in the world that you were a part of. And I was actually chatting to David Ellington previously, and he was on the sway poles.
Yeah.
And I was having a chat to him about the 6-pack that he managed to develop in training for the Paralympic Opening Ceremony.
Yeah.
But so, I mean, you also had a star appearance as well, Miranda, and from The Tempest. And I think you were working alongside, I don't know, many people might not have heard of him, the lesser known Ian McKellen. You know, I don't know who he is.
Who is he again?
Who knows?
Yeah.
So you two are performing together, and I'm just trying to remember. So I think didn't you come in on like an umbrella or a giant peach or something? What was your dramatic, glorious entrance?
So my bit at the beginning, I came in, I was sat on top of the world, suspended. I was sat in a wheelchair, and I had a red umbrella. And the idea was I was sat on top of the world watching the Declaration of the Human Rights surround me in the stadium. That was kind of the opening, and I think I was up there for like a good sort of 30 minutes, 40 minutes, which was absolutely joyous. Like,
wow,
that moment, it's one moment that I remember really clearly, is at the opening where I came out into the stadium, and like David and people were up doing the Ella, oh, umbrella song. I just always sing it, sorry. By Rhiannon, and they were up doing their fantastic work. And then at that moment, I was being strapped into the wheelchair to go up. And I just remember like saying to Tash, who was putting me in the harness, I was just like, OMG, this is mega. And just like both of us just like holding each other's hands going, don't cry. Like the emotion was so overwhelming. I had makeup on, so I was like, I can't cry because as soon as Channel 4 see me, I'll have mascara down my face. So like, keep it together. And up I went, and then up and over and onto the top of the world. And then I was there, bang, as it, cameras came on me. But yeah, it was phenomenal. Like, we'd been in that stadium for 2 weeks rehearsing prior to the opening. So there'd be nobody in that stadium apart from all of us. And then to come out that first night and 70,000 people, it was electric. Like, I've got goosebumps thinking about it now. And then like, you go through it, and I even said to David Toole beforehand, I said, nobody's gonna watch this. Who's gonna watch it? And then after it finished, we heard it was like Channel 4's highest viewing figure. Dave just went, you idiot. I told you people would be watching. Yeah, but because you're in your own little bubble, and you kind of know where you've got to go at certain points, they're feeding stuff into your ear, you get so caught up in just being in that moment. And I remember the circus team gave us our little pep talk before, and they said, take a moment, this is once in a lifetime, it's not like we're going to do it again tomorrow night. Take one moment to just take it all in and have that for you. And I think I managed to do that twice. I did it once when I flew up and Dave Tall was coming the other side and we passed in the sky and we were told, straight face, you can't smile. But I remember we went up and we had a little moment of, yeah, like that to each other. And then also at the very end, where I fly up past the big statue of Alison Lapper, and I go up and I say thank you to the statue, to Alison. And then as I go up, pregnant statue.
She's pregnant,
yeah. And then as I go up to like hit the glass ceiling, I just heard a massive roar come up from the stadium of everybody cheering. And I just went,
wow. Oh, I've got goosebumps now, Nickie.
Yeah. But that was when I went, you know, we did it. We've done this. And that I just thought like, yeah, it's one of the best feelings I've ever had.
Wow. Oh, I mean, just for clarity, I didn't start this topic very well, but I don't know if I mentioned, this is for the Paralympics Opening Ceremony 2012. I'm not sure I even mentioned that. And Jenny Seeley from Graeae, who we were actually touched on earlier, was put together the sway pole routine. Along with Danny Boyle, they worked together to put together this. And they were building up this whole rights campaign and, sort of addressing the oppression. And I think it was a really special moment to finally be seen in terms of what we can do on an equal platform at Olympian level. And I think to have that investment on so many levels and to have that airtime and to be able to just show the quality that we can provide and the care that we've received in response to that, I just think it was just so special, something that to really hold in such a real kind of golden true moment from the start and all the way through. And I think it's something that's I think it feels that maybe that's kickstarted some improvements from that point.
Sophie was just asking, do you feel it has improved things since then?
Thank you.
Thank you. I think that what 2012 did was it showed the world how the UK leads the way with regards to deaf and disabled arts, that we'd created something really bloody good and we meant business. You know, the fact that we had trained artists up to be on sway poles, we had a fantastic, something like 4,000 community cast. A lot of those were deaf and disabled people as well. It really gave us a sense of pride, I think, as to this is who we are and we mean business. And I think, you know, what 2012 was really interesting because it was a time where I felt the country really got behind deaf and disabled people. And I think it started to raise awareness of the government in this country. It educated people. So then also, you know, it raised our profile, but then also because it raised our profile, that now I know for me, friends that I talk to, if I say so-and-so's got their benefits cut, they're losing their Motability car, they're more aware because these things had, you know, these issues had become quite prominent in 2012 for people. And that we know now that some of the Paralympians can't even get to training because they've had their DLA, their PIP benefit cut. They've lost their Motability car. It's a real rubbish time for us as deaf and disabled people. But it's also, I think we found more allies. We've educated a lot of people in the UK around what life is truly like. I think it's funny, isn't it, where we go, 2012, we were so celebrated. 2020 and 2021, I feel like we're at the bottom of the pile with the government. But that's pushing us to a place of like, you know, whatever. But it's just interesting, isn't it, how quickly stuff can turn. But that, you know, that's a constant reminder that we can't take our foot off the gas, that we are having to continuously, it's horrible to say it, but there's this continual feeling that we have to prove ourselves again and again.
Yes.
And you go, but 2012 we did that. Why can't it just feel like we've paved that way? I think things have improved, particularly in regards to the arts. I think there are a lot more opportunities for people, but I would say we can't sit back. There's still a long way to go. And I think the experience of the last year, you know, it will be interesting to see if that momentum that we did have before the pandemic, will it still be there? And I don't mean just our momentum, but the momentum that we felt the arts had in feeling more inclusive, more accessible.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, for me, I think the conversation is sort of it's become more assertive in a way, you know, on we're taking up space on social media,
Yeah.
and you know, we're holding people accountable. We're making people more aware in terms of their behavior, their practice, and the limitations and boundaries that they are in place. So, I mean, if anything, I don't think things have stopped during this COVID time. I think, if anything, discussion has become more open, and I personally feel more hopeful that people like yourself in the positions that you hold can actually build that synergy with others and keep the cogs going and turning and keeping minds shifting and mindsets shifting and changing, so that people can ultimately become more open-minded and become allies, you know. So, and I think when we come out of this, that's my hope, that we can continue to strive forward as we have been. And I mean, so look, Nickie, if you had the power to change anything within the creative world, what would you do? What is it that you would do?
That's quite a big ask, isn't it? Like, it's a good question. So what would I do? I think I would have to look at who's running what buildings and why. What do those board structures look like? This is a really boring answer, but I'm just like, no, because this is how we get change. I think it's looking at who's running what buildings and why. And by buildings, I mean theatres, I mean art centres, I mean museums, galleries, etc., etc. I would say, who have you got on your board? What does your board look like? Because if it's just your mates, then you need to change that. How diverse is that board? What's the narrative of your building? What's the narrative of the work that you're making? I would really, you know, I'd want to hold those people to question and not take no for an answer when I try to challenge them.
Yes, love it. Absolutely. I think it's a brilliant answer. It's not boring whatsoever, you know, because we're talking about the foundation of what matters. And then, you know, then we can build on top of that solid foundation. If the foundation is weak, you know, it's a bit like, you know, a house of cards, it'll collapse.
Yeah.
So the solid foundation is so important. So glancing through your CV, Nickie, it's quite extensive. Part of the National Theatre, the Royal Exchange. So the list goes on and on and on. It's seriously impressive. So, but I just wonder if you could tell us maybe the differences between associate director, staff director, assistant director. I'm just wondering, for those that are watching that may not be clear on those differences. One, you know, what's your favourite, for example, as well?
I think my favourite has to be director because I have it's my vision and I love power, but also like I think you have you have that power in the room, and not that I'm a big power at all, but it's that feeling that you're in charge of this collaboration. I love being in that rehearsal room and ideas sparking off actors, and then the movement director comes in and says, what about this, this and this? And then the designer comes in, the sound, the lighting, like that. The stage manager is like, you can't have that, but you can have this. Like, I love all that collaboration, that feel. So that's, for me, it is being a director. It's that thing of seeing this thing that you've thought about slowly come together. And I love being in a rehearsal room. I also love tech and previews, because that's when everybody else adds their bits in. Then, if you're lucky, you might have one dress rehearsal, and then you go into previews. And I love the feeling of previews, which, are the couple of shows you have before the main press night opening. And I love previews because you can start to change it. So the audience have come in, you can feed off the audience. What are the audience getting? What are they not getting? Have I put that actor in the right place? And I love that, the pressure to know you've only got 3 previews, you've got to get it right. Like, what do I need to change to get this to be the ultimate thing that I'm happy to leave and step away from? So for me, I love director.
Right.
But the differences are, so assistant director is you're very much there to assist the director, assist the team. So that can be, and it will depend on how that director works as to how involved you are. I've been in some rooms where I just have to sit next to the stage manager and I take notes in my book. I don't get asked my opinion. That's cool. I'm there to run lines with actors. I'm there to get tea and coffee. I'm there to sit at different spaces around the auditorium when we get to tech, just to check sight lines. Other directors, you as an assistant, you might be really involved. They might ask your opinion on stuff. You might get to go and work with actors on running scenes, feeding in character work. It's completely up to how that director you're working with has that relationship.
Right.
Associate director is a bit of a step up from an assistant. You probably run understudy rehearsals. Mind you, I've done that in my role as assistant as well. You probably get to direct a couple more scenes. Once the director, I suppose with assistant and associate, once the director has left, you go and see the show twice a week and give notes to the actors. So with an associate, you have a little bit more power than an assistant. But again, it depends on where you're working. And then staff director, which is what the National Theatre call an assistant director. So when I was staff director at the NT, I was working on a show called Mosquitoes, which was in the Dorfman. Somebody called Olivia Colman was in it. You might know Olivia Colman.
I think so. Yeah. Wow.
And I think that was, that was a career highlight. Giving Olivia Colman acting notes. That was like, yeah, that was brilliant. Just got a couple of notes for you, Olivia. So that was great. But it was running lines with the actors. I had to I got to give notes to the actors during part of rehearsals. It's very, and also at the NT, and I suppose this depends on the theatre you work in. You also go and do workshops. You do schools workshops. You have to go and at the NT, I'd have to go and talk to and a bit at the Exchange. You go and talk to the board. You also go and talk to donors, people that are like giving money to the theatre. I had to go and have dinner with a couple of millionaires to persuade them that the theatre is a fantastic thing and they should donate money. It's go and give talks to groups of people that their company donate money. So it's a real sort of like varied role. And as a sort of assistant or staff director, it doesn't really stop until the show is completely finished. You're there on hand. If anything comes up, an actor might call you, need to go through something, you have
Oh,
to
I
get into the
see.
theatre and chat it through. Yeah,
Okay.
you're there, like as a director, they sometimes get to press night, leave it, and leave it in the hands of the assistant, associate, staff director, whatever. And then it becomes you kind of keeping an eye on it. You're babysitting the show in a way, making sure it's still running smoothly, and that the actors haven't sat back, that they're still playing those moments to keep the show alive and fresh. I do
Yeah.
I do enjoy assistant and associate or staff director for the fact that I don't have all the responsibility of it being my show.
Oh, all
Yeah,
of them, just like all of them.
yeah, yeah. Like, I have all of them, but those roles, because they're all quite similar. Because it's not my key responsibility. There's something quite nice of going. Oh, I can just observe a bit more.
Mm.
But I do love being director and having that as my team and seeing my vision come to life.
Wow, beautiful. I can see time flying away from us, and I really wanted to, before time runs out, I'm aware that before lockdown and COVID sort of took over the world, I believe you were, well, directing a new project in Manchester at the Royal Exchange. And it was a fantastic play, which was called, just
Cutting
grabbing
it.
my notes, Cutting It. Yeah, Cutting It. Sorry, I'm just getting a little confused there, but it was by Charlene James.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So she wrote the piece. So, and it addressed a really sort of serious topic, FGM, and I can imagine that was very difficult to reflect and address on stage, and to sort of embed such controversial dialogue and narrative. So you have the different sort of, you have the British culture, and then you have the sort of history of FGM, if you like. And I watched an interview that was on YouTube, and anybody can now, it's still on YouTube. And I just wanted to ask you what it was like working with both deaf and hearing sort of actors that are ultimately a part, if you like, of that culture of FGM, and what it was like as a white woman directing non-white actors.
Mm-hmm.
So, you have the deaf and the hearing languages, the cultural differences, the diversity. There was so much that was sort of bubbling away within that production.
Yeah, there was lots, and it's the play, the kind of the Royal Exchange asked me to look at directing, and I think as soon as I read it, I was like, the role of Iqra, which is Iqra, I was like, and I not long worked with Hermie on House of Bernardo Alba, um, and I would love Hermie to have a look at this role, and I had a chat with Hermie, and we were like, it is a lot of text. How can we work that out? And that was one thing we were keen to explore in rehearsal. Uh, there's one moment where Iqra talks around her experience of FDM, and it's really, really harrowing. And discussions with Hermie and our BSL consultant, we decided that at that moment we would take the words out. It would be signed. We'd have occasional words. A lot of it would become very, very, very visual, and that and and that was just finding that through rehearsal. We'd also, I was very aware of being a white woman in the room. I wanted to get, have that. My rooms are very collaborative, so I allow everybody to we talk around things, we bring things up, we had honest discussions. We had a lady from been in touch with a local FGM charity in Manchester. And she came in and she spoke to all of us stage managers as well, talked us through what FGM is, and that that on day 2 of rehearsals allowed us all to have that understanding of it. And through my research, I found that it happens to many women from lots of different cultures. It used to be quite predominant even in Britain for any woman who thought they weren't, who potentially were feeling that they were gay, that it was a way to stop a woman having pleasure. And that was sort of back in the 1930s, 1940s. So it feels like it's a real part of female history, but it's also something that is celebrated in cultures. So we had to be really careful in the room to find that balance of not seeing people as it being evil. That it is, for some cultures, it is a sort of celebration and a moving on in life. It depends the circumstance in which it's done and how it's done, and it has become identified over here as you can be prosecuted for it. It's a really delicate subject, and I think what we began to explore for both actors, for Hermie and Asher, was what it meant to them in their culture, and how this was a story of friendship as well, between these two girls, who both felt connected, and they couldn't understand why they felt connected. And we introduced, there's a real part of what I wanted to do was to make them feel like they had some fun between them. So there's a moment where the character of Muna, and I say Muna because she invented the sign name of money, because Muna sounds like money, or she did a cow. We put sign names to the characters. I asked Charlene, the writer, if we could introduce that. She was like, of course. We had elements of Muna had obviously been studying Ikra and the way Ikra was communicating with her. So as the friendship developed, Muna could start using some bits of sign like sorry and thank you, and just to show that friendship sort of growing. And there's also a moment where Muna, she constantly listens to music. So she gave Hermie her iPod, and we put headphones on that lit up. And then also, just thinking of tech nowadays, that an iPod, you can get the words to the song come up on your iPod. So Muna was able to show Ikra the kind of beat of the song. We worked out how loud the headphones had to go for Hermie to be able to hear the beat. And it was Diamonds in the Sky, Rhiannon again, and we worked out some beautiful, Hermie signed to the song.
Okay.
There was just some really lovely crossovers between using sign, and voicing over from the other character. And also DaDa, our sound designer, because towards the end of the show, it does really feel like your heart is beating for these two young men. DaDa, just TIDA. Because we had caption units both sides, and I'd worked with Teresa filmmaker to create the captioning. So yeah, looking at the access of that, we then knew deaf people could sit anywhere. So we were really keen to create that heartbeat feeling towards the end. So
Teresa,
so we put are they called, is it like subwoofers? I'm really rubbish when it comes to sound. So we put massive subwoofers around the studio space at the Exchange, so that when that kind of the heartbeat picked up towards the end of the piece, people could feel that the floor in the studio at the Exchange sort of really picking up. So yeah,
okay, yeah,
there was a real discovery of the story.
yeah. It's so important to have access as part of the development, and to have that from at the beginning of the process. And then also, the friendship can grow right from the beginning. We can start to look at lighting and all those elements that can add into the development of that process and accessibility of the process, again, right through the beginning. So I think it's really important to raise that right from the start.
And also, what became apparent for Hermie, that Ikra was learning English, so learning kind of English sign a bit. So and also because it was so much text, Hermie would speak, and she did SSE. So we had to strip it back from BSL, put it to sign supported English. We also worked on physicalizing another piece that was like a flashback, which was interesting because it took the flashback. It was one of those moments where, reading the play, I was always like, this feels too soon for us to get to this place, because it was the character talking about war and family. But we stuck with it, and Hermie did a brilliant job of physicalizing it. But it wasn't until preview 1 where we all went, we don't need that scene. So there's me phoning Charlene, the writer, going, that flashback scene, it's not working. Can we cut it? And Charlene was like, yeah, I agree. I don't think it does work anywhere. I've never kind of been happy with it. So cut it. And we cut it, and, you move on. But that's the joy of a preview, and working with a writer that is so open to process.
Exactly.
And it's just what you discover, isn't it? Through, I think even if we hadn't physicalized that bit, I think, like, even with the text, we'd have still got to that same place of wanting to cut it. But the physicalization, I think, maybe helped us, I don't know, like, realize the story that was being told that didn't need to be told. If that makes sense. I don't know if it does. Yeah.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, you're really lucky to work with such an open writer. Amazing. I'm so aware we've run out of time. But before we finish, Nickie, I've got some quick fire questions for you.
Okay.
So this is just an instinctive response I want from you. I'll give you a choice of 2 things, and you just need to respond as quick as you can.
Okay.
So, outdoor theatre or indoor theatre?
Please, can I have both? Because I think they both bring...
Oh! Not allowed.
Okay. I'm going to go outdoor theatre, because I could bring indoor out. Yeah. Reach more people.
Okay. True. Yeah. So I'm aware of that you have an alter ego character, Beryl, that's sort of lathered in leopard print, if you like. So, and I know she does a lot of the outside theatre stuff, so I get it. So, directing or performing?
Directing.
Okay. Lighting design or set design? Eek. It's a tricky one.
That is a tricky one because there's both, and I don't want lighting or set designers to hate me for whatever I say. But in this moment in time, let's go for lighting design because I can tell a story. If there's no set, I can still tell a story with words and actions, but light can enhance it.
Nice. Okay. Face to face or social media?
Face to face.
Yeah, of course. Had to be. A quiet night in or a night out clubbing?
That's hard because I'm not a clubber girl, but I do love dancing. Could I have a festival club night where I'm in a field dancing and drinking?
Absolutely.
Festival.
Yeah, we can do that.
Dancing.
Done.
Cool.
Back to back being outdoors again. So, dressing room or green room?
Green room. You get all the gossip. You chat to people.
You do. Yeah, absolutely. So, Nickie Miles-Wildin or your alter ego Beryl?
Beryl, because she doesn't care what she says. She just says it. And and the amount of makeup she wears, her outfits. Yeah, Beryl.
Love it. A closed ceremony or an open ceremony? Sorry. Going back to the Olympics, an opening ceremony or the closing ceremony?
Paralympics Opening Ceremony. Gotta say that.
Of course. That was your moment. Yeah, absolutely. The final question, Nickie. What is and where is it your favourite green room? Where is it in the world?
It has to be, and I know this probably will have changed now after the current situation, but it has to be the green room at the Royal Exchange Theatre where it was subsidised food. Every Friday was Chippy Friday. I'd have egg, chips and bean, a bit of salad for not a vast amount of money. There's two women, Anne and Yvonne, the dinner ladies that just run that green room, that are like the heart and soul of that building. Yeah. And also you would then, they had a little tab. You'd say, I'm having this today. They go, I'll put it on your tab. And then you could pay up at the end of the week or the end of the month, or I think I still owe 15 quid. Sorry, Royal Exchange. But it was just beautiful. And I'd go down there. I'd have had a real tough day, like whether that's, in rehearsal or teaching young company. I might go in there for an afternoon brew, be the only person there. And Yvonne would look at me and she'd go, come here. And she'd come out from behind the counter and she'd give me a massive hug. And Yvonne could give the best hugs ever. And it's just a place where you go, it's full of people, technicians, people from the third floor, admin, down there having lunch, chatting, eating together. It's just, I adore that green room. It's a proper green room. So that's one I hold in my heart.
Oh, it is a proper one. Gosh, yes. You're your North mum.
Yeah.
Nickie, thank you so much. It's just been a delight chatting to you, and I feel time has just whizzed past to us, and I really hope we can be back in a room together really soon. I mean, you've just had such an amazing life. I'm so excited to see what you do next. Thank you everyone out there that's been watching and listening. Please join in the conversation on social media. Don't forget our hashtag, #thegreenroom_UK. And hopefully see you all again soon. and hopefully we'll be in the green room all together, gossiping away together as soon as possible. Again, thank you, Nickie. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you. It's been wonderful. Thank you.
Guest, Nickie Miles-Wildin. Host, Sophie Stone. Interpreters, Anna Kitson and Sophie Allen. Music, Road Trips, Off Shane. The Green Room, a video podcast produced by Strive, a collective made up of the DH Ensemble and Hot Coals Productions. You can find all the videos and audio recordings of this series at www.strive-collective.org/the-green-room. Twitter at Strive Collective with no E. #thegreenroom_UK. Celebrating best practice, spotlighting unsung heroes, inspiring action. Logos for Strive, Hot Coals Productions and the DH Ensemble, supported using public funding by Arts Council England.